Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Natalia Moczulska, and this is the news. Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki attended the informal summit of the Granada European Council today. The main topic was migration. The head of the Polish government reiterated that Poland firmly rejects the plan for forced relocation of migrants and presented a 5-point plan to fight illegal immigrants. These include strong protection of external borders and a determined fight against people smugglers. Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki stressed that some of the governments of the member states oppose the dictates of Germany and the European Commission. The Prime Minister reminded that strong resistance has already blocked the arbitrariness of Brussels and Berlin once. I have also been in contact with the President, who is also in talks on similar topics with European leaders. And I have also informed the President that here in these conclusions, in this declaration from the Council, there will be no migration provisions and that there is no agreement to this. The head of government noted that Europe today faces a serious dilemma, whether to agree to mass illegal migration. This is the kind of project supported by the European People's Party, whose members include politicians from the Civic Platform and the Polish People's Party. The issue of the Polish veto is generating a great deal of interest among many journalists from around the world. They have approached us and me as well, asking about the details of the Polish position. So far, European MPs associated with the Polish opposition have been interested in publicizing Polish issues at the EU forum. This is the most important reform of this term, and we need to close it. If we fail, we will open the floodgates for populists and radicals. Poland wants to find solutions that will actually help those people who need help, people who have difficult lives, who are fleeing war. We proved by accepting war refugees from Ukraine into Poland that such solutions are possible. But I want to make it very clear, Poland will never agree to accept illegal migrants. We simply need to strengthen the border, close the border, and not invite illegal migrants. The European Union is pushing the Migration Pact by force. It includes 2 regulations. They are high-level pieces of legislation. They can be adopted through a qualified majority and will consequently apply to all nations. Unlike a directive, they do not require individual parliaments to pass legislation. Berlin is pushing to adopt the pact as soon as possible. They are in a big hurry. They made a proposal to speed up and set the pace for these negotiations and legislative work, which resulted in this very hurried, nervous situation, a situation that the European Union should not be proceeding with this document at this time, given that there are certain procedures initiated in the member states from which the Union will learn how citizens approach the issue of relocation and the issue of migrants. The European Union can't overcome a certain ideological approach to migration. In 10 days, Polish people will be asked in a referendum whether they support taking in thousands of illegal migrants. In France, talks are underway about changes to the constitution to make a similar vote possible. Surprisingly, in Poland, the opposition, which often calls itself democratic, is calling for a boycott of the referendum. Under the Civic Platform and Polish People's Party government, politicians in the power camp supported the admission of illegal migrants. As part of the action of the clubs of the Polish newspaper toward the referendum, You Vote, You Decide, meetings are being organized throughout Poland to show how important it is to take part in this referendum. On October 15th, during the parliamentary elections, 4 key questions will be answered in a nationwide referendum. They will concern the management of national assets, the age of retirement, the barrier on the eastern border, and the question of whether or not to accept illegal migrants. The death toll from yesterday's Russian attack on a store and cafe in the village of Chroza in the Kharkiv region in northeastern Ukraine has risen to 52, one of the most tragic days since the invasion began. And this morning, the Russians attacked Kharkiv. 2 multi-story residential buildings were damaged in the shelling. At least 2 people were killed and dozens were wounded. The strike hit my apartment directly. I took out my younger son and my wife. My mother and my older 10-year-old son are still there. The boys are trying to pull them out. Here is my apartment and what is left of it. There is nothing to add. Go ahead and film it. May all these Russian devils be buried under this rubble. I'm from the 2nd floor. From the 3rd floor, everything fell on me. All the windows, everything was smashed. The rescuers pulled me out of the window using a ladder ladder, I only managed to put on my shoes and took my bag with my documents. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is convinced that yesterday's Russian missile attack that killed more than 50 people in a Ukrainian village was not a blind strike, and that Russian troops must have received information about where they were striking. Today, Russian terrorists launched an attack that can't even be called an animal act because it will be an insult to animals. The deliberate rocket attack on a village in the Kharkiv region, on an ordinary grocery store and cafe. The Russian military could not have been unaware of where they were hitting. And it was not a blind strike. People gathered there for a memorial dinner, Christian memorial dinner. Who could launch a missile at them? Who? Only absolute evil. More than 50 people died. Among them was a child, a boy, 6 years old. The French government is battling to contain a bout of nationwide panic over bedbugs in Paris, just 9 months before the capital hosts next summer's Olympic Games. Train travelers, cinema goers, and U.S. influencers in Paris for Fashion Week have been among those reporting seeing the bugs or being bitten by them. A mixture of media hysteria, political opportunism, and national anxiety over whether the tiny critters might ruin the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. Bedbugs are small, flat, wingless insects measuring about 1/4 of an inch that hide in mattresses and bedding. They feed on blood and typically bite during the night. Considered one of the world's major nuisance pests, the primary host of bedbugs are humans. Although the parasites can be infected with human pathogens, no scientific study has found that they transmit disease. Female bedbugs can deposit 1 to 5 eggs a day and may lay 200 to 500 eggs in their lifetime. They can survive for months while waiting for their next meal, pest control experts say. So according to the rector's envoy, the state's envoy, bedbugs are not a problem. They are an inconvenience. However, we follow what is being said in the media. We hear people affected, and we know that bedbugs are a disaster. There is no way we will bring bedbugs into our homes, incur 5,000 euros in costs, weeks or months of hassle. No, everyone was devastated yesterday. The rectorate wanted to force us to resume classes, and we learned today that we were right to refuse, since half of the school is infested. Government officials held an emergency meeting on Friday on how to tackle a crisis born out of anecdote and viral posts on social media, and which is now filling talk show airtime, even if pest control experts remain largely nonplussed. Madame President, Madame Prime Minister, a wave of panic grips the country. Bedbugs proliferate in all everyday places: hospitals, schools, workers' homes, retirement homes, prisons, trains, and even cinemas. They are causing millions of our infested citizens to experience an ordeal. They cause them to lose sleep, cause paranoia, and isolate them socially. Bedbugs are a national public health problem, but you have done nothing. So yes, bedbugs are a worry for our fellow citizens who fear dealing with them. It is a real ordeal for those affected. An infestation in a home can become hell for those who live there, and the solutions to getting rid of them can be expensive. On this matter, there should be no division. There should be collective determination to act. A pest control company's organization said bedbug callouts in the June-August period were up 65% on the same period last year. Pest control is expensive and often out of reach for low-income families. The client called us because unfortunately he found a trace of bedbugs after going to the cinema. When he got home, he saw 2 shed skins and 2 bedbugs, and obviously he panicked and contacted us so that we could treat his apartment. So we've seen about a 60% increase in interventions. Today in our store for the sale of products, there are 8 out of 10 customers who come for bedbug prevention. Between 2017 and 2022, more than 1 in 10 French households had been infested with bedbugs, the health authority says. The National Agency for Food, Environmental and Workplace Safety said the presence of bedbugs did not mean poor hygiene.
We saw a rise in France of bedbugs, but it's an old phenomenon. It started more than 10 years ago. What we've seen is that the population of bedbugs double once every 5 years. So it's rising quite slowly, but at a regular rate, so it's quite concerning, of course. And right now, we also have a media bubble about that subject, and also people are very scared about it. And of course, they take video in the train, in the subway, of things that were there before, but they just didn't notice. A lot of people will put their apartment on Airbnb, for example, and they might get bed bugs this way because, of course, tourists can bring them and they will travel during that time and maybe bring bed bugs back home. So the worrying is not that much about the Olympics themselves for bed bugs, but the after Olympic, it might be a kind of a nice souvenir for the Parisian people to have way more bed bugs after the Olympic Games, of course.
Sniffer dogs are inspecting French trains and the Paris metro for bedbugs, though so far not a single one has been found on public transport. The transport minister said Paris is not alone. Pest control group Orkin this year released its leading U.S. bedbug city list. Chicago, New York City, and Philadelphia took the top spots. With the beginning of October, Chinese people welcome another major national holiday, also known as Golden Week. It is the second most important and longest holiday in China after Chinese New Year. During this period, we feel as if time slows down. Everyone can have a nice and memorable time here. We love this period. It's really enjoyable. Here we return to the tranquility of nature. We don't have to think about anything. The atmosphere is very relaxing. Spending time with friends is like playing house when we were kids. Unlike traditional Chinese holidays, the dates of which are largely dependent on the lunar calendar, the national holiday is not a moving holiday. It runs from October 1st to 7th every year. In the celebration of the holiday, the first 3 days are crucial. A ceremony is held to raise the national flag at the Square of Heavenly Peace. After sunset, fireworks displays are organized. There are also all kinds of dance and music shows on the following days, along with demonstrations of traditional Chinese calligraphy techniques or painting. The festival mainly serves to showcase China's culture and strength to tourists from all over the world. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Please stay tuned for Poland Daily Weather, Poland Daily Business, and some of our other programs. But for me, it's have a wonderful weekend.